Welcome to the Whitman Middle School Building Committee meeting on October 22nd at 4:30 p.m. I will ask everyone please to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, public comment. Anybody? John? Oh, before you go, John, I'm going to introduce everybody here on the table because you asked to. Shirley asked. So, could everybody just say your name, please?
Crystal Regan.
Rich Baldwin.
Mike Driscoll.
Josh McNeil.
Beth Stafford.
Kathleen O'Tina.
Justin Evans.
Stephen Marshall. Steve Boyce.
Bob Curran.
And Bob.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Like we just started.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
And we have public comment, Mike, so hold on. Okay, John, go ahead.
John Galvin, 41 High Street. I'm actually noticing that the agenda posted is not the one that was recently updated, because that's kind of what I was going to talk about. I saw there was an agenda posted the other day that included a budget business department report, budget status. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah, that's not on there. Is that, okay.
it's going to be
Okay,
after.
I just want to make sure, because that's what I was going to
Yes.
ask about.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, seeing that was added, I'd like to ask if it's possible to get an update on the bond rating that I had talked about a meeting or so ago. I know that currently, or hopefully it's been updated, but we were in a position where we really didn't even have a bond rating. It was kind of, I don't even know what the word is that it is, but I also had heard that it was, the reason behind it was because we were 2 years in arrears in supplying our year-end reports. So I was hoping to get an update and see if that had been addressed, if those have been, do we have a bond rating yet? Because it's significant impact to the cost of the project.
Sure.
I mean, this year alone, judging by the numbers that we're banning, it's probably over $100,000 to the taxpayers. And next year, once we start getting the heavy borrowing, it could end up being millions if it's not addressed. So I'm hoping that that can be included. Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, next we have meeting minutes approval. We'll go with the 9:24 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And any questions? Any changes, deletions, omissions?
Oh, that was Steve Boyce made the motion.
Thank you. Kathleen O'Tina made the second.
Okay, all in favor?
Voice vote?
No, we don't need to. Oh, no, because they don't vote.
I'm going to abstain. I was,
Okay, one abstention. Justin abstain.
Thanks.
Okay, and then we have the virtual meeting, 10:08. Could I have a
To
motion?
approve the minutes of the virtual meeting.
Okay, that's Steve Boyce.
Kathleen O'Tina will put it in the second.
Kathleen O'Tina, second. Any omissions, deletions, corrections? Okay. All in favor? Okay, and Crystal abstains. Okay. All right, Stephen, it is you, the budget department report, budget status, and whatever you can answer Mr. Galvin to at this time.
Thank you. So I just wanted to provide a brief update in terms of where we are in our submissions to the MSBA and where the project is at this point. I think we'll probably hit in the financial section a little bit later, but we're just approaching $8 million of expenditures on the project right now. We have submitted to the MSBA just over $6.1 million of those expenditures, and we have been reimbursed just over 3.9 million of that. So that last set of reimbursements came in. On the expenditures and invoice requisitions page that is in the packet, there is a column that shows the pro-pay submission number, and that our last pro-pay submission was our 10th submission. So you can kind of track each one of those as we're submitting to the MSBA. So anything that does not have a pro-pay submission number to the right in that column has not yet been submitted to the MSBA for reimbursement. So after, I believe, tonight's approvals of invoices, we'll have just over $2.1 million of expenditures that still need to be submitted to the MSBA for reimbursement. I do expect that to happen before the end of October, and we're, depending on what is submitted and what is reimbursable, we're looking at between 50 and 60% of our submissions currently that will be reimbursed. As for the questions that were asked, at this time, we are still awaiting the finalization of our FY22 audit. And so that is the reason that we currently do not have a bond rating. So I do not have any other update other than the fact that we do not currently have a bond rating, and we are awaiting the finalization of our FY22 audit. Once we finalize with the auditors, the FY22 audit, we'll move right into our FY23 audit. So as of right now, we do believe that we will be on track to finalize our audit and have a bond rating before any of the large borrowing that needs to happen in the earlier months of FY25. But we are all aware that this is a challenge, and that this is something that we will need to stay on top of in order for this project to be borrowed at a reasonable rate. And so it is something that we continue to work on.
Stephen, a question about the audit. Have they requested any further information, or we've been waiting for their answer for quite a while now?
No, there has been additional information that has been requested, even just as of last week.
Oh, goodness.
It appears that our main general fund audit questions have all been received. But typically during these yearly audits, there are additional projects that might be audited from DESI that will provide, specific areas. It might be a single grant, it might be a revolving account area, such as a food service program. And so that's what we're working on right now. There were some additional questions on, I believe, a special ed grant in FY22, and then also our food services program. So we're working through all of those right now with our auditors.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Kathleen?
Steve, could you please guide me to where I'll find the ProPay information?
So in my packet, it's just the third or fourth page. It looks like this.
So I'm looking at this. Is that the document?
So 1, 2, 3 pages, I think, in from that page.
It should be the invoices. Sorry, it looks small on my screen.
Yeah.
Right here on this column right here.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Anything else at this time? John, you want to come here? You want a packet? Might answer some of your questions. No problem. Oh, wait a minute. I think it was this one. Okay, so no other questions? Okay, we'll move to OPM update.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Within your packet, you'll see the project budget and cost summary. Again, we typically don't spend that much time on this, but it's more so a summary overview and all the details are in the backup, which we'll be going through, as you all know. But I can take a minute here to clarify any questions anyone might have before I jump right in. Okay, good, great. So moving on to project adjustments. For project adjustments, this is any adjustments on the budgets, move in contingency, but as you can see, we typically gray out anything that has already been approved previously, and right now we don't have any changes or adds for this piece, so there has been no adjustments in the project adjustment at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Going to commitments. We have, for commitments, this is for any new contracts, new POs, amendments, change orders. RSV is something we've actually reviewed and voted on for the structural peer review. So this is just actually officially instating this on our system, in our records. For Project Dog, that will be a new commitment. What Project Dog is, it's a online procurement services for the 30B early package and also the 149 general contractors services. So within that, there is there's two which we can go through, but ultimately we went out to two online services for Project Dog and Bid Docs. Project Dog came in at 2,200, which is on the, sorry, again, it's quite small, $2,290, whereas Bid Docs came in at $3,000 for the comparison. That said, we did recommend Project Dog. We've used them previously in past projects, and we're at this time recommending for the commitment of Project Dog. I can certainly pull this up for comparison if anyone needs it, but that's what we're hoping to vote for, this commitment of Project Dog. Any questions on their services? Later, you will see though, there will be an invoice that came in for Project Dog. Again, that is specifically only for the 30B, which is what we're looking to expedite as we speak. They did, we acknowledge that this is kind of, in the sense that we've reached to this point of having to invoice, but that's because we know that's gonna take some time to actually cut the commitments and actually invoice, so we're trying to get that in advance to that as well, which you'll see later on in the invoicings. So can we vote to commit for the commitment for the Project Dog?
You need a motion to accept the bid for Project Dog?
Yes, please.
Okay, Kathleen makes that motion.
Second, Steve Boyce.
Any questions before we take a vote? Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Great, thank you. Moving to invoices, again, you'll see the standard AI3 and Collier's invoices for the month of September, which I also have as backup if necessary. But then again, you'll see the Project Dog invoice for the $895. That is for 30B for early package and services, online services. Aside from that, does anyone have any questions? Again, I can go back to these invoices if needed from the backups.
Okay, we have an invoice for the $1,395 also attached, no?
We're not voting.
Oh,
That's the
I'm
one we're not
sorry.
voting on?
That is for the 149 GC.
Oh,
That will
okay, so
come
we're not-
later on.
That's later on,
So
okay.
what it is the 895 is specifically for the
Okay.
30B, which is what we're
Yep.
in the process of. But this is in preparation for that
Yep.
as
Oh, okay.
the next step.
Thank you.
We do all the invoices together. We can do them one at a time.
I think we should do them one at a time.
Sure.
I think that would be better. That's full
I'll
record.
motion Steve Boyce, the invoice 988262 for $51,503.35.
Kathleen will second that.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous?
Motion invoice 22104, Steve Boyce, to approve. I'm sorry, the amount, $895.
You mean 22105?
Project Dog.
22105.
What?
22105 is the invoice number.
Oh, because this one says 22104.
They get 22104 here.
Yeah, the
It's-
document here says 22105.
It should be 22104 for the invoice of Project Dog.
Okay.
Oops.
I'll second Steve's motion, Kathleen, to pay the $895 Project Dog invoice of 22104.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous again.
And motion,
That's it.
No, there's AI3.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like
these
me
two
to
are
handle-
together, this is on,
Yeah, I
Would
know.
you like me to
Yep.
handle this one?
yeah, please,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. I
I
skipped
move that we pay invoices to AI3, invoice number 0026E-2203.0 for a total amount of $493,986.70.
Second.
Any questions on this one?
I'm sorry, what was that total? Like, what was
Total
the?
is $493,000.
It's this one? It's this invoice?
It's 3 invoices that total $493,986.70.
Okay. Thank you.
So just,
Yeah.
I guess the question Mary Beth usually asks, what are we at for a cash balance? We're able to pay out of the project?
Yes, yeah. So right now, we're at about 8 million in total expenditures for the project. We've been reimbursed 4 million.
Yep.
We've borrowed 8,
Okay.
so we have about $4 million available.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you.
It's all right.
Again, what Stephen was mentioning earlier, this will then get submitted for the next pro pay submission. Now that we've had this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Okay.
Moving to the cash flow, again, we continue to monitor this. And as you know, we project with contingency and with CPL under billing. We are still looking in the goods. It's, again, easier to see with the graphical piece, so I'm just gonna move right there. We're right under. So we're just hitting right under it. So we're keeping track and we're monitoring, but we are looking good as far as cash flow goes.
Am I wrong?
Any questions?
Does the traffic study run that?
Yes. Just one
Yes,
question
Justin.
on that. Is the tracking under more of an indicator that we are below cost or behind schedule?
We're not behind schedule, we're just below cost. It's because we're at the point where we are projecting more just because of we're in the process of the pre-qualifications and early bid package. So we're just catching up as we speak, but we are looking good in the sense that we are projecting with contingency against it, but we're just under.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are all together.
Could I add
That's
just
why-
one piece of information?
That's
This is
why-
really to the question that Justin asked. If we go back to the
You add all
estimated
these
project cash flow sheet,
Yep.
all these up, it's
as of
557.
September,
You gotta-
we had spent $7,939,362, and with tonight's approval, we're up to $8,485,747.
Yes.
So we are definitely within a budget.
Yes, within, correct. Yep.
Thank you, Kathleen.
You will.
So then that moves me to where we're at with schedule. I'm just gonna follow where the line of the yellow highlight is. Ultimately, as you can see, if you enlarge it, we're right up against the pre-qualification and bid process is where we're kind of in for schedule with the master overall. But we're just right there, and next steps will be the pre-qual and actual bidding process. So that'll be the next couple of weeks that you'll see as far as the overall schedule goes from the masters.
Right.
Any questions on the actual schedule? Great.
Yes, sir.
So this moves me to, I'm just gonna pull back the agenda. We're gonna move on to the pre-qualification and early bid package. So within the package, we had a presentation, which highlights where we currently are with this overall schedule. Everything in gray just recently passed. Where we're currently at is we're in the midst of the team review and assessment. We have a touch base with the committee on November 6th. As of right now, we're in the process of going through reference checks for all the pre-qualifications requesters. And then we'll move on to, oh, I apologize, one step back. We did have to re-qualify the elevators. That is actually quite common. Elevators tend to be, we typically require 3 bids at the minimum. We only received 1 for the elevator, so that required a rebid on the elevator. So that is also in the process as we speak. So that's just something that we had to note on this, just to everyone. But we'll discuss with everyone in the team on November 6th is the goal, and the intent for the SBC approval in December. Any question as far as the timeline goes for the pre-qualification before I move on to early bid? As far as the early bid goes, we worked with Project Dog to issue the 30B contract for the procurement. That said, we do have a bid release and receive on end of October with the SBC vote to review and approve the supplier virtually on November 4th. And then the notification to award by November 8th with the delivery of the switchgear, hopefully intending to come well in time for the project. So that is our overall timeline schedule for the early bid package. And that just leaves me for any questions for this as well.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Charlie.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, Julie.
Beth, there seems to be a problem with the invoice numbers. These are all over the place? The one for,
The one we just were talking about,
457, 799, and on the expenditures, the same invoice is listed as a different amount.
It's one that I was just asking about. It looks like
In the invoice that we have, it says subject Whittle Middle School Designer Services invoice number 0026B-2203. But below it, it lists different numbers, so.
One is for the basic services, and then the other two are for the extra services.
Yeah, but the invoice.
0019.
Yeah, the invoice numbers are off, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
so
The
it should be
numbers are-
00.
The total is not. The total dollar figure we voted is not off, but the invoice,
Well, the invoice numbers and the actual numbers inside the document here are off.
Yeah, because
They're-
Yes.
instead of the 0026B up here, but it's 0025B.
Right, and then
Yeah.
the numbers in this document here are off compared to the numbers on the document that was presented in the memo.
right, but the
Yeah.
dollar figure is not.
We can take a look in that and we can definitely get that reconciled if that is the case. Apologies if that was,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will review these before we submit anything for payment and make sure that we clean up the actual invoice numbers. I see what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
There's 0026E versus 0025B.
Yeah, as long as you see what.
okay.
we're-
And we'll work with Steven, of course, to make sure we have that before we issue anything.
Right, but the backup and the dollar amount does coincide with the work that was completed, so it looks like it's just some, miskeying of information on this expenditures and invoice sheet.
Perfect.
Good thing.
Okay,
Apologies
thank
for
you.
any confusion.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, Julie?
Is Mike on?
Here.
How's he doing? You hopping around?
You just take it easy.
We had zoning board last night. They continued it until December 9th. They did a good job.
What questions could be answered?
Julie did a good job. Traffic study guy. They did good.
Great.
Okay, yeah,
Just gonna
all
cut
set.
out
Good
some
evening.
issues with the abutter fencing.
So, quick overview of the schedule as always. We are right at that cusp now of 100% documents, so that's extremely exciting, pushing the needle even closer to completion of the documentation. That'll be critical for tonight. We have approval of the 90% documents and set as a topic on tonight's agenda. We'll have that in a few slides, but just re-emphasizing that schedule is moving along, and at this point it is very compressed to the end. So in addition to having put together the 90% documentation since we last met, there has been quite a few activities in October alone. Signage design review occurred. We had met with our signage consultant, who is working to design featured walls and graphics specific to the middle school. So we had administration join us and some members from the staff review the progress of that set. We do look forward to being able to share that with the full committee at a later meeting. We're currently taking the feedback from the administrators and working that into the design. Similarly, Shirley discussed the early procurement package a little bit. That's been out on the streets to the bidders. We've received a couple RFIs related to that, so we've been regularly responding and providing addenda. So typically just more information or clarification on dates. We also had a security design review. This was similar to the signage package where our security consultant just wanted to check in with the administrators to ensure that we are meeting the scope for security. And then last night we were able to have the site plan review with the Zoning Board of Appeals. It was actually we found it to be a very productive and positive meeting. There was great turnout by the immediate abutters, all of whom, at least our impression was that they were pro-project, and we just heard from some concerns regarding the construction phasing and whether or not fencing would be included. We have full intention of responding to those requests through updates in the drawing set, specifically just providing some additional fencing. After some digging, the existing fencing that exists on the site is within the property boundaries, and so we intend to include and repair some of that fencing specific to the project. And we'll get into cost estimates a little bit later in the presentation, but we're confident that all of that can be consumed within the project budget and it's not an issue. And then additionally, the Zoning Board of Appeals has scheduled a follow-up hearing for December 9th to continue the discussion. That is not uncommon, so we would take the feedback and then be able to provide any additional info to give them the confidence to approve the project. We were seeking one variance related to the height of the building. It's actually about 7 feet at its highest point above the residential threshold for that zoning area. But again, with the design of the building and sort of stepping back from the residences, we don't anticipate that that will be not approved.
Could I just comment on that?
Sure.
I did attend the meeting last night, and there are 3 groups I want to commend. The first is AI3 and Colliers for the presentation. You had all of the information available for both the board and the abutters, so you had the graphics that you could go back and forth, so that was fabulous. I also want to thank the abutters for bringing thoughtful comments to the committee's attention, and I appreciated the way that the representatives from Colliers and AI3 handled the abutters' concerns. And thirdly, and most importantly, I have to commend John Goldrosen and the group that serves on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Not that I'm surprised, but it's still amazing to see the level of talented citizens who are willing to volunteer on a board and bring thoughtful questions and thoughtful comments to such an important project. So I thought last night's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing was educational for me, and it was a terrific and very positive experience. So nice job to you guys and your colleagues back in the office.
Yeah, we entirely concur and we appreciate that feedback. Don't need to spend a lot of time on the specific schedule items, but the impactful point here is that almost everything is green to this point, meaning that we are confident in our submission and being able to maintain the schedule for this week, getting that to the MSBA. The one outstanding item with the red arrow here is the proprietary items discussion. And so this was something that has been brought up in a few meetings, and it typical that it would be, being that if there are additional brand-specific products that we want to make sure are included in the specifications, we'll just continuously check in to approve those with the committee. We are at a point now where it is important to get a certified vote on the items that we are proposing to be included tonight, and these of course have come directly from administration or other town entities to ensure that there's direct connection from what is already in use to make sure that that can be carried over into the new middle school. The first 3 on this list have been previously approved by this committee. We did add 2 more for approval. Number 4, the Allcom simulcast distributed antenna system. That is well, I won't begin to explain the ins and outs of the technology there, but it's a network of antennas that can work together to improve a signal, which I understand is a request from Whitman Fire Department. Josh has been really helpful in coordinating that with them, and he also provided this description. So the town has implemented a new microwave radio system, and in an effort to keep that equipment standardized and provide a reliable communication tool, that is what this antenna system is. And then number 5, the switches and wireless access points from the Extreme networks. This is something that the district is using within all of the schools already, and so we'd want to carry that over to the new middle school. I will note that, like the phone system, this would be something that's purchased through the district's technology scope, so it's not really a part of the base construction. So technically it doesn't have to be included in the proprietary specifications, but as having that acknowledged and logged will be helpful for those future discussions. So we are looking for a vote this evening that the proprietary list of items identified here is accepted and approved.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so that was Bob Curran, motion, and Josh, second. Okay, any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Well,
Moving into the 90% construction documents, as we have done with the prior phases, and at every phase, we've had our designer's cost estimator and the OPM's cost estimator meet on a lengthy call to go over all of the scope of the project and reconcile their estimates. As has been typical so far at every phase as well, is that those 2 estimators have come to very close numbers, which we like to think is giving confidence in the documentation. And of course, after those 2 numbers have been reconciled, we're just identifying here that the reconciled amount is $103,702,808. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
yeah.
And then looking at that compared to the previously established construction cost budget at schematic design, we are identifying that there's about a $2.9 million difference currently. So the project continues to remain on budget. And then the ad alternates were also identified with a cost, and so those at this time have been, if you recall, broken into a roof solar system and a site solar system. And again, once we receive those general contractor bids, that would be the point in time at which the committee could determine whether or not to include those ad alternates. Any questions or concerns on cost estimates? Fantastic. And which we are also very fortunate that up to this point we have not had to recommend any value engineering, so we're continuing that streak. This is a list, it's very similar to the list that we've been carrying all along as items that could be value engineered out, but again, we don't recommend that at this time, as some would potentially affect program operation or maintenance or things that were previously established in all of our programming and staffing meetings. So that brings us to a proposal for the committee to approve to authorize the submission to the MSBA. We did provide a draft report last week. I know it's another lengthy hundreds of pages of report, so we don't necessarily expect you to have to go through all of it, but at least to show the breadth of the collection of documents that have been obtained up to this point and will continue to be coordinated and passed along to the MSBA.
Okay. So we need a vote.
I'll make the motion. Kathleen makes the motion to submit the 90% construction documents to the MSBA.
Second, Steve Boyce.
Any questions? All in favor? Unanimous.
Fantastic. And that was everything we had this evening. The other thing might just be scheduling the next meeting or two to invite Shirley back.
Do we want to touch upon warrants? I think we're all set with that, right?
They were all set.
We're all set.
All right, great, just checking on the, yep, and then the next meeting will be the virtual November 4th to go through the early bid package. And that'll be the virtual meeting. And then the other one we hope is to actually pencil in, and we want to have a discussion with you guys, is maybe with the holidays, knowing that Thanksgiving is around the corner, potentially putting in a hold on Tuesday, November 26th, which is a Tuesday the same week of Thanksgiving, for potential on review of the pre-qualification GC and subcontractor list. We'll know more on the 4th and we can present to you the
Yeah.
actual date, but potentially penciling that day in.
And
Yeah.
then looking beyond that, December 10th would be an important date, at least for the committee, to be able to then approve our 100% submission to the
Okay.
MSBA. So.
All right, Jeff?
I would prefer the 19th instead of the 26th.
Yeah, so
Getting close to travel, people are.
I agree. We did consider that. It really comes down to how quickly we can get through the reference checks and everything on the pre-qualification. So we can definitely chat more with the team and
If you can't do it,
confirm.
then you push it off.
Exactly. It would likely have to be the first week of December or early December. It would just mean we'll have to.
Yeah,
in
because,
December.
school is out Wednesday and, from Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
Wednesday,
exactly.
Thursday, so.
Which is why I wanted to have a conversation with this group.
If it can't be the 19th, let's look at the week of.
December.
December 3rd.
So I know there was a conflict on the 3rd, potentially the 4th. I know it's not usual on a Wednesday, but is that possible if needed?
Yeah, as long as it's not interfering with. Oh,
School,
no,
wouldn't get school,
sorry, I don't use a clock, I just show up.
wouldn't interfere with school committee, so.
Of course, yes. I understand the 26th, which is why I wanted to have a conversation. We were initially pushing for the 19th, but we'll know more for sure on the 4th, and we'll let you know an official date, but want to throw that out there. And then December 10th is the date is December 10th doable?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that will be an even more exciting meeting as we can look beyond documentation now and discuss scheduling of the receiving the bids and then everything that comes after that.
And dig in the hole.
Yep.
That's right.
Big push.
Start the new
The next
year.
couple of weeks.
Great. Any other questions, concerns? We appreciate
Anybody
your
else?
time.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, so motion by
Steve Boyce.
Steve Boyce and
You had any
the other
issues with
Steve.
yours? Any issues with your panel?
And all in favor? Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody.